and welcome. Today we'll be talking to our viewers about the fine print of mutual funds and the rights of mutual fund investors. Feroz, there are so many rights that a mutual fund investor has that we are not even aware about. One such right and one such fine print that we need to keep in mind is free exit, or rather an investor has the option of a free exit if there's a change in the promoter holding of the mutual fund.
You're right, Samina. I think once you have something in your portfolio, understanding it fully well is your duty. And if you're an investor in a mutual fund, not knowing the next 4 or 5 rights which we have been highlighting is, I think, not a very good thing to do, not a prudent thing to do. So point one, like Samina, you mentioned, free exit windows in asset management companies exist during pockets of transitionary phase of ownership. Whenever there is a change in the promoter holding of an asset management company, an investor has the right to exit all the schemes, including closed-ended schemes of the fund. And that's a big information from a perspective that closed-ended scheme which you have locked in your money for 5 years, you get an exit option in that specific schemes of those AMCs which are going through a promoter holding change. And that's a 1 month window. Unfortunately, these letters which intimate you about this window, which are mandatory to be sent, don't reach in time every time. And I don't know what the reason is, but you get a 30-day window to exit even a closed-ended fund or open-ended fund without an exit load. For example, if I recollect a few of those examples where asset management companies have gone through promoter holding pattern change, is Invesco and Religare. Religare share was taken over by Invesco, which is an asset management company, and all the schemes of Religare Invesco, when it became only Invesco, were exit free. And Reliance, which is one of the largest asset management companies in the country, had Nippon, the Japanese-based investor, changing its share, and all Reliance schemes, and that's a lot of money, upwards of 1 lakh crores, was free to take without an exit load, or in a closed-ended scheme without having an exit window, you get a special exit window. So please be careful to understand whether the mutual funds you hold are going through phases of these, and you can bring in more agility in your portfolio by using this one right of yours, which you may not know before the period is over.
Feroz, another important right one should be aware of is complaint readdressal system. Doesn't say very much when you say that aloud, but can you give us more details of what this is and what this right actually involves, and why is it even important?
See, there is a SEBI complaint redressal forum called SCORS, which most mutual fund companies don't know about. And the best part of, for example, capital markets, unlike real estate, is today we are discovering, after hundreds of years of real estate being into people's portfolio, today we are discovering a regulatory framework in the form of RERA. But capital markets, being the younger asset, still has 10 times better regulation for the fact that it has started being regulated long before the real estate segment. So, and in that, a component of mutual fund is a more regulated vehicle for a person's participation, and anytime you have some complaint, you have a very efficient platform in the form of SCORS. We're using the word SCORS, and if anybody took some secondary information, he or she would be able to go through, understand the process of a complaint to be registered with SCORS, and they get solved very efficiently, and they're taken very seriously by asset management companies only if the investor knows that he has a platform to raise a voice and make himself or herself heard.
Also, I mean, a lot of us usually make investments and forget about it. And it's fairly tough, or at least you think it gets fairly tough, to trace back those investments. Is there a way to trace back investments that have been forgotten, maybe by us or maybe by our ancestors?
Yes, Samina, again a very important point, because mutual fund industry has upwards of 10,000 crores of unclaimed money, unclaimed dividends. All this is an outcome of having forgotten some investments you have made because you are busy collecting several mutual funds from different advisors. You might actually miss out on 1, 2, 3 investments. So that is why the insurance industry has a lot of unclaimed money. Mutual fund industry has a lot of unclaimed I was speaking to a couple of asset management companies, the old ones. They say we don't declare dividends in our old schemes because those dividend checks come back and then we don't know where to hand these over to, because back then account mandates were not so clear. So point one is, I think you have to understand this is a real problem. Thousands of crores is unclaimed. So you may be a participant in this unclaimed place. So what if I have some of my investments in this unclaimed portion? So you can today do an audit to figure out whether you have missed out or your ancestors have missed out using an NSDL platform, using a CDSL platform. You can get a monthly report of all the investments across all AMCs, across all advisors coming to you on an email, which gives you a consolidated pictures of all demat accounts, all mutual fund holdings, so that it's all under one roof from a reporting standpoint. So not using this facility is not a good idea. So one should do homework, register themselves for a monthly report which consolidates all demat accounts, point one, all mutual fund investments under one specific report. And you might surely see that there's a large propensity for you to rediscover some investment which slipped your attention.
Right. Just want to talk about another important fine print. Unclaimed dividend for more than 3 years does not earn any income. Give us some details about this, Feroz.
See, whenever there is a dividend check sent to you and you have not encashed it, for the first 3 years, it earns a specific interest. Post that, the interest stops being there. So if you have unclaimed dividends, claiming them is important, getting them to your bank account, assuming that these paid out dividends will keep continuing to grow, which is not the case, because if you don't take the dividend, the money is out, it is not with you, it is not with the fund, so you will have to claim them before 3 years, otherwise you will not have any interest post that. So point is, dividends being unclaimed are one of the biggest deterrents, and there is huge amounts of unclaimed dividends. How do you claim it? You have to write a letter to the asset management company after seeing the dividend history of the specific fund. So you will have to put somebody on the job or do it yourself. See whether the asset management company's dividends tally with your bank account statement. It's quite a few times a couple of dividends which were actually credited have not got credited and are languishing somewhere in the middle. So you will have to try and reconcile the bank account statement with the mutual fund statement, and if there is a disparity, you will have to claim those dividends within the 3-year period.
Very lastly, most of us believe that because mutual funds have so many investors, we don't have too much right over what happens with the fund. But I believe investors do actually have a right to wind up of a scheme if they're not happy. Is that correct?
Yes, Samina, when it comes to investor and percentage of investors, there's a maximum cap of in any asset management, any mutual fund that a person or by himself or herself cannot own more than 25% of the fund. So you will never have a situation that there are less than 4 investors in a mutual fund. Now, having said which, 75% of the mutual fund investors, if came together and if they want to wind down that scheme, even if it's a closed-ended scheme, the fund has to be wound down. That's a very important right, but unfortunately or fortunately, it's not very largely prevalent. But those are very drastic situations where the faith in the scheme has come down, and especially if it's a closed-ended scheme, it becomes very, very handy to have a group of investors wanting to close down the scheme before its maturity. But if it's an open-ended scheme, I might just want to remove my money, paying the exit load or paying without paying the exit load, not going through the process of convincing 75% of the other investors in the fund. But Samina, there's one more point, which is a very important point for an investor, which I think needs to be highlighted in this situation, is that most people will not be aware that systematic investment plans registered before August 2009 are still being charged an entry load. Entry load was abolished in August 2009, but if SIPs were registered before August 2009 for an installment you have paid this month, an entry load is being charged which has been abolished 9 years back. So you will have to stop your old SIPs and restart the same SIPs, otherwise you are paying an exit load. Most people who have old historical SIPs are paying entry loads without knowing that they are ending up paying entry loads.
Right. Thanks, Feroz. That's interesting information that we all need to be aware of as we're all mutual fund investors. Have a good weekend and thanks for watching.